Like, it's hard for me to take Jacob trying to ream Smitty seriously about screwing up when Jacob has sucked and screwed up every step of the way with this damn investigation. What is up, fellow Beyond the Gates viewers? Here to talk about today's Tuesday episode of the show. Today's episode was kind of the tale of two different shows, because on one hand, on one side of the show, we had the Bill and Hayley, Lynette and Randy side of the show, to which that storyline tends to entertain me. And then on the other side of the show, we had everything else, which most of the time hasn't been entertaining me lately because everything moves slowly or is depressing. But let's actually start with Anita today, who is getting word today on if her chemotherapy is working. Danny was there ready to hear the news that they're going to find out today if the chemo is working. They had to get a hold of Nicole to come over for support as well. Nicole started today's episode with Smitty because, you know, he wanted to talk to her in his office the other day, even though he was really just sneaking in to be the one that was actually sneaking in on her computer. Smitty's excuse of being there was that he wanted to talk about the cotillion and talk about Samantha and how June has decided to attend. I guess it's just been a lot of work, this cotillion, for Smitty and the family. She did ask him how his investigative piece is still going. This is when his phone was being blown up by Jacob at that point. Then Vernon called Nicole to take her away from speaking with Smitty. I don't know if Nicole has suspicions that it could have been Smitty that broke into her computer. It doesn't seem like. It seems like she's just very trusting of her son-in-law, and that was that. Then she met up with Danny, her mother, and Vernon. Anita also called Sharon at one point today to tell Sharon that today is the day they will find out if chemotherapy is working. And thankfully, for all of us viewers, thankfully for these characters, Anita got good news. The chemo is working and she is on her way. She still has ways to go. She still has to probably have other things done to her, but that was good news. Hopefully we are definitely past the most depressing parts of that cancer storyline. We'll circle back to some of these Duprees. I want to get to the actual good stuff today. Hayley got a call from Randy today. Randy is telling Hayley, who is panicking because they don't have a lot of time, because Lynette is doing the most right now with Hayley, and Hayley doesn't want Bill to find out anything. Randy continues to say that he is going to deal with Lynette, who is trying to get a place in the DMV and stay, even though she told Hayley she would be leaving. We also learned today that suddenly Hayley is back to poisoning Bill after they dropped that for what feels like a couple of months. But they're picking that back up. They do, with the writing, they do a lot of starting and stopping. I think that's the problem. There's a lack of flow in how we're going to get from point A to point B in these storylines. But they're picking the poisoning back up. Now Hayley is poisoning Bill's coffee, which you would think she would have just done in the first place. I don't know why it had to be the tea that he hated and all. But now it seems to be his coffee. Bill came down wanting to talk to Hayley about Lynette, wanting to know what Lynette is holding over Hayley's head. Bill has ever so slowly started to gain some brain cells back. Maybe it is because he has stopped drinking that tea. Maybe he will lose brain cells again now that he's drinking the poisoned coffee. Hayley continues to insist that Lynette saved her life. She's just looking out for Lynette. But Bill did make a comment if she really did save your life and wanted to know what Lynette has on her. Hayley kept telling Bill that she became friends with Lynette. She doesn't have a lot of friends, just Caroline, who Bill pays and all of that. She continues to say that Lynette is not holding anything over her head. And Hayley tried to convince Bill that the penthouse is a good idea for Lynette. Hayley is saying that this will help Lynette get back on her feet and then her and Bill will have the property, and they can give it to whoever they want or use it as like an investment. Bill's upset though because all of this would be at his expense. He would be paying for this penthouse. Hayley tried to convince him of the investment, but enough of Bill's brain cells were actually firing, and he said they can't do it. They have to stop enabling Lynette, saying that Lynette might get the penthouse and never want to leave. So Bill's answer was no, because they have done more than enough for Lynette. Hayley again later in the episode was trying to push again after Lynette texted her about furnishing the penthouse, but Bill won't give over a blank check, which is basically what it would be for Lynette. He is saying he's told Hayley he's doing this because he's protecting Hayley. And then Bill went off to work finally with his poisoned coffee, leaving Hayley to smirk. Randy's side of the ploy today was to have a chat with Lynette and act like he is upset with Hayley, saying that Hayley is always acting like he's not doing good enough in their schemes and that Hayley is getting a big ego with this latest scheme. Lynette agreed that Hayley is cocky, and Randy wants in on Lynette's game. He tells Lynette that she is right about the Bill thing, that Bill is just another mark for Hayley. Lynette was doubtful at first that Randy would really be turning on his blood cousin, Hayley, like he seems to be doing. Randy said he and Hayley have been working as a team, but now she thinks she's the leader. She's making all these threats, barking at him that if he doesn't handle Lynette, he will get cut out of the latest scheme. Randy saying he won't let Hayley ruin the bag for him and wants he and Lynette to work together to actually teach Hayley a lesson. I didn't buy this the entire time. I mean, I didn't think that Randy was just suddenly going to turn on Hayley and actually try and out-scam Hayley with Lynette, even though, of course, I would have liked that more because I am on Lynette's side, as anyone who watches my videos should know by now. Randy, in trying to convince Lynette that he was on the up and up with this plan, was saying he wouldn't tell Lynette everything if he was playing her. They seem to agree to do this, saying they can get all this money from the scheme with Bill and then blow town. And then they even put the expenses of their drinks today on Hayley's tab. And then Randy and Lynette went back to the hotel and had sex. So Randy was finally, for once, working a good game today. I actually also kind of liked their little love-making montage. Of course, I am, biased when it comes to Lynette. I can be honest about that. But honestly, this show lacks on good love-making scenes. I know there's some people in the comments that don't like the love-making scenes in general on TV. Andre and Danny had some good, hot love-making scenes in the past, but they're kind of the only ones. Like, anytime someone has tried to screw Tomas on this show, it's been cringe. Grandpa Gangster and Trash are the worst to have to watch do that. So it was actually nice to see Randy and Lynette. They were a little hot, and I kind of like the fact that Randy is now trying to two-time Lynette and really try and scam her. I don't like that right now he is getting the best of Lynette in the scamming. I would like to see Lynette come out of this trio as the best scammer, because I think she still has the potential to be one of the better characters on this entire show. But I will take Randy scamming Lynette over Randy and Hayley trying to kill Lynette to stop her from her blackmail schemes. In the afterglow of their sex, Randy and Lynette were talking about their partnership. Randy was cheering to the best partnership he ever had. She cheered to something too. She talked about wanting to get into her penthouse ASAP. She can't wait to strategize from her new penthouse. That's when Lynette texted Hayley, telling Hayley she's ready to start furnishing her penthouse. But while Lynette was distracted, Randy ended up stealing Lynette's phone. So I don't exactly know what Randy's going to do with that phone. Maybe try and get some sort of blackmail on Lynette, or get into or just stop Lynette from using Hayley's account. I'm not exactly sure, but I do want to see how it plays out. They did entertain me today with this side of the show, which unfortunately leaves us with trying to talk about the Impaler storyline that just always falls flat. Jacob was in our favorite alley today, wanting to get a hold of Smitty, who was with Nicole at one point, as I talked about. Smitty ended up coming to the alley to meet with Jacob so that Jacob could chew him out about how he went into the hospital, went off track from their plan, got into Nicole's computer, and Smitty fucked up, is what Jacob is saying. He told Smitty that he knows Smitty thinks he pulled off that stunt in the hospital, but now Marcel is investigating and the hospital knows that Nicole's computer was broken into. Jacob was telling Smitty to stay in his lane, but the entire thing was just completely impossible for me to take seriously. Like, it's hard for me to take Jacob trying to ream Smitty seriously about screwing up when Jacob has sucked and screwed up every step of the way with this damn investigation. He has shown to be the dumb investigator that we've always felt him to be. So yeah, Jacob just kept reaming Smitty, telling Smitty that he's in charge and he has the authority, so no more going off script. But I wish they would start to go off script, because the scripts for this Impaler storyline have been so bad. The only other thing to talk about is Chelsea and Naomi had some small scenes together today. I can't lie, that was some of the scenes today that I kind of just zoned out of. They were not important. They were talking about Madison being sued and how Naomi's helping with that, and how Chelsea can tell that Naomi's drifting off while they were talking because of Jacob being away and all of that. Can we talk about again, though, how all of Chelsea's storylines on this show from jump they've put in the least amount of effort into Chelsea's storylines. They do not really even try with the Chelsea storylines. The most they ever did was when Chelsea was in a throuple, but even then, too much of that happened off screen. And then suddenly Allison was an insta-psycho. And even though I enjoyed when Allison became psycho and held Chelsea captive for a week, I know some people in the comments didn't like that. But what I didn't like about that was the poor build of getting there to Allison being a psycho. And ever since then, the rest of Chelsea's storylines have been similar. So much of it happens off screen that it's almost impossible for us to care. Now suddenly Madison's being sued out of nowhere, and we're supposed to care when the build to that with Madison and Madison's mom and Chelsea, all that happened off screen. It's the same thing with Chelsea all the time. They've got to do better. That was today's episode. Loved our scammers today. It's kind of good to see that Hayley is still poisoning Bill, but I mean, how much longer can they possibly stretch that out? I mean, with this show, probably till next year if it's still on the air. So we'll see. But I do like the scamming stuff, and that has been the thing that has consistently entertained me over these last few months with this show.